Hey, it's Nancy from Baldwin Homes at Keller Williams and J Metro Group. Those of you who know, I did a video last week about buying a house when you're a first-time home buyer, and I actually got a second question. So I thought I'd follow up this week with how much money do I need to close when I'm buying a house? Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about your cash situation. All right. Uh, you need cash to cover things like your down payment, your inspection fees, appraisal fees, and closing costs. All right. Let's talk a little bit about down payments first. Generally, as a rule of thumb, most people, when they're purchasing a home, are going to have one of two different types of mortgages. One of them is going to be an FHA, and the other one is a conventional. All right. And by the way, a VA is actually a type of FHA loan, and the VA loan tends to have zero money down. Okay. The FHA mortgage usually requires a minimum of about 3.5% down. Okay. I will also tell you that FHA loans have an appraisal inspection sort of expectation that's attached to it. And a lot of sellers that I know are always very nervous and uncomfortable when it comes to FHA loans because they're afraid that the appraiser is going to come in and give them a laundry list of inspection issues that they have to take care of. And that's outside of the inspection period. So that's one of the things that happens with FHA loans. Okay. Now, most conventional loans we know around here tend to be about 20% down. Okay. Although you can certainly get, I've seen conventional loans as low as 3% down if you have stellar credit. Okay. Um, but 20%, as long as you have 20% down on a loan in general, whether it's a whatever type of loan it is, as long as you have 20% down, then you are not subject to PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. Okay. When you have less than 20% down, oftentimes mortgage companies and banks are going to ask you to pay PMI, and that PMI can be about 0.5% to 1% of the loan annually. Okay. So, in other words, if you have for every $100,000 worth of loan, that can add up to about $80 worth of monthly payment that is just PMI. And I think that's your worst case scenario. Okay. So just so you know, rule of thumb, about 3% of your loan is going towards about closing costs. Do not hold me to that. I just said rule of thumb. Okay. So that's what we were talking about in relationship to down payment and the kind of loans and how much down payment is attached to each of those types of mortgages. Let's talk a little bit about inspection fees. Okay. So inspection fees. Here in northern New Jersey, we do a home inspection, we do a sewer scope, and a tank sweep. Okay, the tank sweep is when they check to see whether there's any possibility of underground oil tanks on your property. A sewer scope is basically when they run a camera through the poop chute of your home to make sure that that is doesn't have any roots growing through it or isn't collapsed or falling apart, because otherwise you could have possibly a sewage backup. There's also other extras that people do. Sometimes people, if you're purchasing in an area that has septic or well, those are inspections that have to be done. If you have a pool, you have to do a pool inspection. If you're concerned about chimney, electrical, plumbing, etc., then you can bring people in for separate inspections on those particular items. Okay. Appraisal fees. An appraisal, of course, is when the bank sends out an independent appraisal company, a person who goes out and sort of tries to gauge the value of your home. They want to make sure that what you're paying for it kind of sort of is in the same ballpark. Okay. The appraisal itself, I've seen them these days. They're running probably between $500, $700 for an appraisal. Okay. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit we'll go back to the closing cost question. Okay, remember I said the thing about rule of thumb, 3% on your closing costs? Your closing costs will usually include certain things like how much you're paying your attorney. Okay, attorneys around here, I've seen them cost upwards of, between $1,200 to about $2,500 for a transaction. Actually, very reasonable if you ask me, considering that it's not an hourly, it's a flat fee. Okay, so there's attorney fees, there's title, you have to run title. Title is when the title company goes and does a check on the historical chain of ownership of your property to make sure that the people who are selling this house to you can actually sell the house to you, and also that there aren't any like weird clouds on the property, as in um like mechanics liens. Like you find out, my goodness, like, a roofer that they had a fight with 7 years ago put a lien on their property, and now that has to be cleared before you can purchase the home. So title, and of course there's title insurance that goes with that. Those are all, a couple of grand each. That's where they generally run you. There's also things like recording fees, tax escrows. I will tell you, mortgage companies tend to like to pay your taxes for you. They like to pay your property taxes, and so they will escrow for both property taxes and also homeowners insurance. Okay, so I've usually seen that they like to keep 2 or 3 months of escrow to start for both those items. Okay. Homeowners insurance, I really haven't seen go much past, 2 grand a year. And most houses are even less than that. And as for your taxes, of course, those vary from town to town and house to house. So I hope that this helps you guys. One last piece of advice, of course, which is, regarding the down payment. If you're in a multiple offer situation, the higher your down payment, the more the seller will find you appealing, of course. So if you have any further questions about how much money you need to close on a house or about purchasing a house in general, you can always reach me.